guess we are live now.
Yes. Right. Hi, good evening, everyone. Hope and wish you all are doing good and you enjoyed the session, yesterday's session. So, okay, to start off with, I'll just brief you about the last session so that if there is anyone who is new to this session, can continue from now onwards. Okay, so yesterday actually we discussed a bit about origami, what origami is, and we did a little exercise which was simple, but yes, there are not many variations to it which we can add. And we basically talked about a fan fold, right? Because why I'm using this term fan fold, because it's a very usual and simple term and we all know about it, right? So one line goes up, comes up, and one line goes in. This is what all about fan fold is, right? But it's as it sounds very simple, and definitely it's easy to do at the same time. But I think we never thought of like we can do lot many variations to it. We can add lot many other things to it, or maybe we can say in other terms we can add more value to it, right? So this is what all we did, and we did how we can apply origami into the different design fields as well. So, okay, to start off with, I'll just give you a small demo that we did yesterday. All right. So, we started with a sheet of paper, so which can be a square or a rectangle. So, maybe even if you had attended yesterday, so you can repeat it if you have any if you faced any challenge in doing this, so it will be easier, right? So it's just a demo, so just be attentive and see how I am doing, right? So maybe later on you can try, but you will get the idea how we are processing ahead. Okay, so what we did is like we took a square sheet and we kept it like this diagonally. So where then we got this bottom corner to the upper corner like this. Then using the first finger of your right hand like this, bring it down. And one suggestion I want to add here is like please use surface to hold the paper and use your fingertips to crease it because you will get nice creases, and origami is all about creases, right? So because I'm doing it in the air so that you can see, otherwise it will be difficult for you, right? So but you please use the surface like this, and then when I'll bring it down from the middle, then I'll crease it towards the left and the right to both the sides. Okay, and this is again a wonderful thing that if we start from the center, your paper will remain at the same place. I mean, it will not move from here and there, and you will get a straight crease, right? So again, after folding this, open it, rotate, and then again the same way we have to create one more diagonal crease. All right. So basically I'm creating 4 triangles on a square sheet. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, that's it. Now what we have to do is we have to divide the sheet in equal parts, 8 parts, right? So what we have to do is bring this bottom line to the upper crease, and in this way only we divide the sheet into equal parts. We always get the perfect division of the sheets, and this is how we create the grids also. And grids are very important if you want to do some advanced origami or if you want to create any kind of design. So these can be used as grid as well, right? So now we have 2 divisions. Now I'll further divide it. I'll do it little quicker. Then bringing the, so now we have 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4. The same way I'll do it onto the other side as well. Again, I'll be creating 4. So see. Okay. So for your understanding, I'll just mark the lines as well. 1, 2, right? So here you can see 1, 2, 3 and 4. And this way also 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now I'll turn over the sheet where I can see all the lines are coming up. That means I have the mountain folds. Definitely when we are folding a sheet on to one side, on the side where we are folding, we'll get these valley folds and automatically we are going to get the mountain folds onto the other side. Now what we have to do is we further have to divide it into 2. That means if I have 4 divisions, I'll get 8 divisions out of it. All right. So I'll just quickly do it. Okay, one thing if you remember, when we have to divide it into equal parts, I told you like you have to align these bottom line with the alternate creases, right? So 1, 3, 5, 7 like that. So when you are doing it like this, you will always get the perfect creases right there. All right. And I'll do onto the other side as well. So now if you check, so you can see now it's a mix of valley folds and the mountain folds. And we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 portions of it. All right. So now on one side, I can see the line is coming up, first line, all right? So what I'll do is, this first line where it is coming up, I'll just pick it. And I have this diagonal line. And I'll just keep on collapsing it. And I don't have to create any new creases. I'll be using these creases which we have created, the grids which we have created. Only these lines we will be using. And no extra crease. All right. So the creases which are coming up, I'll take it up, and which are going in, I'll keep it in. So once I'll collapse it, I'll get a very tiny, you can say 4 petal flower maybe, right? Is it something like that? 4 petal flower. But at the same time, if I open it, see, it will take another new shape, right? And another thing is I can collapse this as well, right? We can keep it, open it, and I can make lot many of these, and I can keep on joining. As I showed you in last class also, I made something like this, all right? So this is a combination of many of these. So if we have the another one, I can join it here, then to the other. So the edges we can keep on joining, and we can get lot many things out of it. So this is what we did in the last evening, right? So in the continuation to same, we will be creating something new today. Okay. So, okay. Keep your material ready. Take any square sheet. I'm sure you all must be ready with the material today, right? So take any square sheet, any kind of paper, right? And then, as we did yesterday, so divide the sheet into 8 equal parts horizontally and 8 equal parts vertically. Please do that. Take 2 minutes time. And as we did in the last evening, or we did for this just now, all right? So the same thing I need, but we will be creating something new, and I'm sure you are going to enjoy that, right? Because Origami is something that we enjoy at the same time. It's not that only filled with some maturity. Even if we are doing advanced origami, it's kiddish. It's a fun to fold paper, fun to create something new out of the paper, and definitely when we are using and aligning it and applying it in some designings or in some ways which we can use, it's nothing like it. All right. Now take 2 minutes time and divide a square sheet of paper horizontally and vertically in 8 equal parts. All right. So do that. I'm preparing mine also, and you will do yours. So even if you have a big size square or the small size square, it hardly matters. But yes, the sheet has to be a square. Okay. The same steps you have to repeat for dividing the into 8 equal parts. We should also have some fun, right? So please do that, right? And we all know, origami is a Japanese folding art, right? But as much I know, right? So origami is something which was invented by Chinese people when they started developing paper. It's a long time back, right? So when they started making paper, you can say that time they created paper, and it used to be very expensive, right? That time they started with the folding of paper. They used to create some nice decorations for their particular events because paper used to be very expensive, right? So from there, Buddhist monks, they got this thing into Japan, right? And then Japanese people have explored a lot about it. And origami is a name which was given by the Japanese people, although its original name, which was given by the Chinese, was Zahe Zahi. Yeah, I'm sure not many of you, or maybe almost all of you, may not be knowing this, right? But Zahe Zahi was the original name. Then Japanese created some other name. Then finally they came up with the term origami, where ori means foldings and gami means paper. But yes, nowadays it is not only restricted to paper, it's more about the foldings which can be translated into other materials as well. Okay. So while doing, we'll share some more stories. And if you come to know anything new, anything interesting, or if you have any questions, please put it. Please mail it to ma'am so that we can answer your queries at the same time. All right. So now I have these 8 squares vertically and horizontally. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Now, for the thing which I'm going to tell you, for that I need 7. So what I'll do is I'll just cut this one line of it. All right. I need 7 squares horizontally and vertically. That means 7 into 7, 49 square grids I want. All right. So after making 8, just cut one strip from one side. All right. So I have cut this strip because I need 7 squares. All right. So I'll rotate it because I need another side also. I need 7 squares. So again, I'll cut a strip from one side. So now I have 7 into 7 grids. All right. Why I did that? Because I needed this center square for my work. I'm not going to tell you now what we are going to make, but I'm sure you will love it. You will enjoy this. All right. Okay. So I cut this one strip. Now I have this center square, because if we had 8, then it was difficult to find out the center, because we can't get the center then, right? Now I have this square. All right. Now what we have to do is see for 2 minutes, and then you can do it on your sheets at the same time, right? This is a square. So what I'll do is I'll go either clockwise or I'll go anti-clockwise. All right. One side will take either clockwise or the anti-clockwise will do. So what I'll do is I'm just showing it to you. I'm just marking some black marks. I'm just putting black marks so that you can see. All right. So you can see here, I'm going in the same direction. All right. So the lines which I have marked as black bold lines will be your mountain folds, like this. We did this mountain folds yesterday, and you know very well what are the mountain folds. So all these black lines will be the mountain folds. And then what you have to do is all right, now see here. These are the mountain folds, and here the dotted lines will be your valley folds. All right. So before doing this, what I'll do is we have these rectangles, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And as we have this mountain fold, so what I'll do is from this portion to this portion, this is coming up. So next line will go in. All right. So this line will go in. All right. So as we do it in the fan folding, one line goes up, one line goes down, like this. All right. So this bold black line is your mountain fold, and the next line will be your valley fold, and next to it will be your mountain fold again. So in this one rectangle, in which we have this way 4 grids and this way 3 grids, so this rectangle, first bold line is mountain, then is the valley, the next line will be your mountain. So you will repeat this step in rest of these rectangles as well. All right. So just check it out. With this black bold line will be mountain fold. That means it is coming up. Dotted line is going in. That means it's a valley fold. The next line is again the mountain fold. All right. So what you have to do is, this is already coming up. Easily you can fold it. You will get in. And then again you have this mountain. Take your 2 minutes time and do it nicely. Okay. Don't be in rush. Do it nicely, because getting the nice outcome is more important. Okay. And don't worry if you are creating a mess with the paper, if you are fighting with the paper. Keep on challenging yourself. Keep fighting with the paper. Definitely you are going to get the good results out of it. All right. Because whenever we are doing anything for the first time, it takes time, because it's all about the coordination between your brain and hands. So don't worry at all. Okay. And I'm doing mine with you, and you please carry on with your. worry if you are making any mistakes, okay? Even after doing after so many years, it's almost been more than a decade now, still I make so many mistakes, so don't worry about it, okay? We all make mistakes, and out of the mistakes only we get more nice results. Yeah. So as I told you yesterday also, it's all about the process. Look at the process, look at the steps that we are following. That's more important. So I'm doing mine. Then you complete yours. Take your time. Right? I'm done with mine. You take your time. I'm just giving you a 1 minute pause, and I'll just quickly have a glass of water and you complete it. I'll be back. All right? Okay, guys, I'm here. Just last 30 seconds. I'm sure many of you must have completed this, because you all are a wonderful batch of students, wonderful batch of learners, and very smart at the same time. You people are really good. Yeah. Okay. So 30 seconds over. Now what we have to do is, if you are done, and or if you are not done with it, please have a look how we are going to fold it. All right. So then you can carry on. Okay. So once you have folded, all these mountain lines are coming out. These are going in. This is coming up. Now what next? All right. So slowly, what I'll do is I'll take this, the lines which are bold, pick this, and pick the next line to it. All right. And I know like the next line is going in. So I'll just bring this here and bring this here and just pinch it. So once I'll do this, it will come closer to each other. All right. You can see here. So I'll rotate. So I'll come to the next portion of it. This is a bold line coming here and here, and next line is going in. So what I'll do is I'll bring this line and this line, two mountain folds, closer to each other, and this side from this side as well. All right, and I crease it, pinch it nicely. All right, see. So as I pinch it, all the lines are coming closer to each other. Again, take the mountain lines, bring it closer to each other, and pinch it a bit. That's it. This is the only thing you have to do. You need not to create any other creases. All right. Again, the mountain folds. Again, a pinch and see. All right. So after doing this, what I can see is all the lines are coming closer to each other. All right. Now what I'll do is, because we did in same direction, either the clockwise or the anti-clockwise, so now I'll just collapse it. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just collapse it. See. And once you will collapse it, you can see the center triangle which we left it. will get little enhanced, right? So once I'll collapse it from the back, again pinch it so that the creases remains on its place, and see, open it, leave it, and just hold it from the two corners and see. Automatically it will go in, right? Okay, so you can create this. It's a wonderful technique which can be applied anywhere, at so many places, you can say, right? And it can be as big as you want, right? So if I have to create maybe a headgear for an example, so maybe if I can I'm creating the same thing with a bigger size of sheet, and if this square, center square is little more bigger, maybe I can wear it as hat, right? So just think, that is completely up to you how you want to or how you can implement these techniques, right? So see how nicely it goes. And it takes so less space because it's all collapsed. It takes so less space, right? And if I want to play with it, so I can play it at the same time. It can be a good stress buster. See, I'm not doing anything because just my creases are crisp and precise. It automatically goes in. That's why it's very important to keep the creases crisp and precise. All right. Take 2 minutes and complete this. Then we'll start with the another technique and another way to use these. All right. 2 minutes. I think good enough. At least you will be able to understand that. Understanding is very much important, right? Because you should know how it is working, what is the mechanism, right? So mechanism is very important, because once you know the mechanism, you can create lot many things. And what if we can apply this on on some fabric manipulation or textile manipulation, some surface manipulation, right? How nice it will look. And I have single square here, so it can be the multiple of it at the same time. This can be one unit, all right? This can be the one unit. And if I can have multiple units on one single go, then how interesting it will be, all right? So today you can try with it, all right? So with the multiple units of the same, multiple units, I don't mean like you have to make so many of these and you have to join it. That is not possible in this kind of mechanism. But maybe you can have, as we did with the 7 squares, we can take bigger size of sheet, and instead of 7, I can take 14, right? And then I can easily get this center square, and I can easily apply the same mechanism onto that. Okay, maybe you can at least double it. May not be the multiple, but at least you can have one more with it. All right. So try that and let me know how it works. Right. Okay, another 30 seconds to go. Try to understand the technique, how it works. That's more important, right? Because once you will be able to understand the technique, will be easy to create as or apply the same thing onto other materials, or maybe to create anything more, right? So it can be a nice container at the same time, which looks very fancy, right? And once you will create, I'm sure your mom is going to love it, right? Okay, so after doing this, I'll tell you something very simple. It is simple to do, but tricky to understand a bit. All right. So, okay. So for that, what I'll be doing is, I'll take a square sheet of paper. Right. So I have this square sheet of paper. So for this, even if you don't have the square sheet, if you have the rectangle sheet, that will also be possible to do it. All right. But yes, as a beginner, I always suggest you can use any kind of paper, but preferably it has to be plain because then you can see how the lines are working. If it is a print paper, then you may not be able to, or we can say like lines may not be properly visible to you, right? Okay. So now what we have to do is take any sheet. Now we have these bottom line and the top line, and we can fold. If I want to fold it like this in two equal parts, I can do that. But what if I not folded it in two equal parts, but I just fold it randomly? All right. So I'm folding it like this. So my this edge is here, this edge is here, this is here, and this is here, right? So when I open it, I can see I have created one nice diagonal line, right? And there is no need like these two sides has to be equal. It can be any, right? In any proportion you can work, right? So just two sides I have, two flaps I have. So what I'll do is I'll pick this first flap, all right? First flap, and again I'll just fold it back, but randomly, all right? So it can be equal or it may not be equal at the same time, right? So just a random fold, folding it back, and I have turned it over where you have the another flap going on. Again, just fold it randomly. So there is no need where it is coming, where it is going, how much portion or the proportion or the ratio, whatever it is, that's okay, no problem. So it's just a random fold, right? Now, after folding this, I have to divide this in 8 equal parts. So what I'll do is, I'll just fold it. And even if the divisions are not equal, that's fine. But try if we can get some equal divisions. 1. And now you know very well how to divide it into 8 equal parts, right? So I don't think so I need to explain it again. Bringing top to the center and bottom to the center, then open it, turn it, again fold it. So I will get nice equal divisions on this strip, right? Because it's more like a strip of paper instead of a sheet. This. And when I'll open it, see what I'll get. Right? It can be anything. Right? Some lines are going up, few lines are even looks straight. So it can be anything. But when I have to fold it, what I'll do is again the fan folding. One line will come up, one line will go in. All right. So here I'm starting it with the first line. So I'm just bringing this crease little up, right? Okay, so I'll just wait for 30 seconds so that you can complete your first folds and divisions. I'm sorry, I was going a little fast. Take 30 seconds and divide your sheet into 8 parts. Don't worry, even if it is not equal, all right? It may little vary, that's okay. For the first time, that's good if you are able to even divide it nicely, right? Okay, so now what we have to do is, after completing this, we can see there are so many lines. All right, so what I'll do is, I'll take first line and I'll just fold it like a mountain foot. Right, so if first line is coming up, the second line will definitely will go in. All right, so just play with the lines, no extra creases, just play with the lines, no extra creases, and see what you will get. I'm doing mine, so you do yours. Okay, guys, have you ever heard a story how who and how crane was invented? I'm sure you must be aware about the crane, origami crane, right? That's the traditional origami thing, right? So, and you know, there is Nippon Origami Association that's in Tokyo. I'm also a member there. So it is to be said, like, whosoever will make 1,000 of cranes, 1,000 of cranes, their wish will come true, right? And every year, because you must be aware about the Hiroshima bomb, right? Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So at that time, when they dropped the bomb that was called the Little Boy, so many people in Japan got affected, and there was a small little girl, Sadako Saki. So she was very small at that time, say around 4.5 years old, right? So she got affected by that bomb with the aftermath effects of that bomb, right? So then she was hospitalized after a few years, and she was on bed and she was hospitalized and she was unable to do anything. All right. So that time she created crane, origami crane. All right. So when she created the crane, so she wrote a very nice code. If I'll write peace on your wings, you will fly across the world. Because she was so much hurt because of that dropping of bomb, she wanted to spread peace, right? And that time she wrote this quote, and it's a very famous story, right? It's a very famous story, and you can also search it. All right. So this is how and till now it is to be said, like, every year on 7th of August, because that is the day when the bomb was dropped there on Nagasaki, Hiroshima. So every year on 7th August, with plenty and lots and thousands of cranes, you can say, they use and they create nice murals. Try to find out, try to Google it, and you will see nice structures there the people makes every year, right? Okay, so I hope you all are done with this. So this is how I'm not getting any straight lines, right? So this is a random way, right? So in this I'm getting something new, so I can use it like this. Or maybe the another thing what I can do is, what if I want to create more out of it? I can do that as well. Okay, but okay, you practice this first, then I'll tell you what all we can bring out of this at the same time. All right, but whenever you have to create any random lines, try to fold the paper randomly, complete abstract. Don't look at what is the proportion. जितना proportion और ratio बिगड़ेगा उतना आपका design और अच्छे से आएगा, right? Because here I was created this, then I was doing like this, so that's okay, right? So जितना आपका लाइंस में वेरिएशन होगा, फर्स्ट फोल्ड्स में वेरिएशन होगा, उतना ही ज्यादा वेरिएशंस आपका अंदर की लाइंस में होगा, एंड इट विल लुक अमेजिंग, राइट? सो try this. It's very nice, and try to do it at least 20 to 25 times in various line variations, and then you can compare कि जितना ज्यादा लाइन आपका एब्स्ट्रैक्ट होगा उतना ज्यादा आपका आउटकम अच्छा आएगा, राइट? take 1 minute time to complete yours so that we can start with the new thing. Now, if the variations of the strip is like this, how beautifully I'll get, right? So it's not necessary that you have to use any proper square or rectangle sheet of paper. It can be any form of the sheet, that will do. And jitna abstract zyada hoga, utna aapka interesting zyada, right? So if I'm open it, I can see beautiful lines going in, right? So this is coming like this, so randomly, right? That's the way. Create some abstract outcome, right? Okay. I'm sure all of you have understood the technique and the trick. Try to explore more after the session, because jitna aap explore zyada karenge, your mind will start churning it. It will help you in thinking how to do it, how to do the implementations of the same. All right? Okay. So let's do another one. I have this square sheet of paper. All right. So what I'll do is I'll just fold it like this. Just one diagonal fold, nothing much. All right. Just one diagonal fold. Now what we have to do is we have to divide the sheet, right? So okay, I don't know where I have kept my pen. Oh, it's here. Okay. So now what we have to do is I'll bring this top corner and I'll join. So when you will hold it like this, you can see this is a 90-degree angle, and we have to divide this one side of it. I'll bring this corner and I'll join it till here. All right, like this. And just freeze it. Top corner till the bottom corner. Bring it down, equal, freeze it. All right. So again, we have to divide it into 8 parts. Do it quickly because now you know how to divide it, right? We have done lots of division exercise now, and in so many various ways, right? So here we have something new for you, right? Okay. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 divisions, but further I'll divide it to get the 8 divisions because I need. Here we are doing 8 divisions so that it takes little lesser time. But yes, if you want to make it more intricate, so it can be divided further into 16, 32, 64, whatever the number of grids you want, or whatever the number of divisions you want, you can do that, right? And more the divisions are, more intricate the your outcome will be, right? It looks very intricate when you have more divisions, because it gets smaller and smaller. But here we have taken only 8, right? Take 1 minute time and do it nicely. All right. So here you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right. And crease it nicely. Creasing is very important. All right. And to start or to practice origami, you can use even this simple kind of computer printing paper. All right. And maybe later on you can use any type of any variety of papers, right? So you can use any kind of GSM. Maybe it starts basically with the 75 GSM that I suggest to start with and you can go up to 350 GSM as well. But definitely it is going to be thicker for you. So start with the little thinner paper. It will help you, right? And there is a plenty of paper available in the market nowadays, right? So try to find out that also. Research on the paper, what different kind of papers we get, because when we look at the papers, so even in the papers, there are lot many varieties, because they use different type of fibers and the different types of patting on it, because at times you might have observed, you might have used some paper कि उनको कई बार horizontally fold करना is easy, but when we fold it vertically, it takes little pressure, right? So we have to force a bit to fold it vertically. That is because of the grains. So I'll tell you about that also, how to fold the neutral folds at the same time, right? So whenever I'm using, I use different type of papers, and approximately you can say like I'm using around more than 200 varieties of paper, right? And yes, at times, because of my projects, it depends like what is the requirement. I create my own paper, right? Because being a designer, it is also very important to keep the sustainability factor in our mind, right? So you can use your garden waste and turn it into paper. You can use your vegetable or the fruit peels, which can easily be converted into paper. And there are lot many things. I mean, even if you look at the juice corners, usually what the juice wala do, they extract the juice and they just throw all the pulp and the fruit and the vegetable waste into the garbage, right? But those things can be used to create a nice paper, right? So yeah, we will talk about it maybe some other time. Okay, so I'm sure you must be done till here. So then open it. And when you will open it, you will find these are the diagonal lines that you can look at, right? And practice this also, because in tomorrow's session, I'll tell you how to create the spirals out of it, right? Okay, so now we have all the lines. So it's the same way. First line, that is, जो हमारा इस corner से इस corner तक आ रहा है, that is creating L basically. That will come up, and the next line will go in, like this. And we have this diagonal crease also, all right? So this diagonal crease will change its little shape when we will fold it like this, because हम ऊपर कर रहे हैं, नीचे कर रहे हैं, तो उससे क्या हो रहा है, हमारा जो diagonal line है वो भी कहीं कहीं से ऊपर नीचे हो जाता है, all right? See, so I'll just keep on doing till the end of it. And please don't forget to share some images with us, so that we can see what all you are doing, and do mention what all, how you are going to, what you think, how you can apply that as well, right? So it's all about one up and one down, right? But tomorrow we will be creating some nice spirals. See, after completing this, when I collapse it, it takes a form of a plain sheet and I can open it, right? And what if I, as we, okay, where is mine? Okay, the thing what we did yesterday, I don't know where is my paper has gone. Anyways, okay, so what we did yesterday, the square things, all right? So maybe we can combine this. Okay, I have got mine, all right? So this is what we did yesterday, okay? So maybe what if I have this also and I combine this with it, okay? But yes, it is important that the size of these lines or the size of the squares has to be same. All right, so I can easily combine this, all right, to create a nice design. So it will collapse and it will also get collapsed, right? So once I'll open it, I can create this. So maybe I can have this here on the other side as well. So this is completely up to me how I want to use, or maybe I can put it here in the center, all right? So it can be something here. I can also add it here. So this is completely up to you how you are going to use this. But see how beautifully we have divided the lines and how nice it looks, right? And you know, if you have observed that we created this, it also looks like alphabet A, right? So that means we can also use these forms into our typography, right? So see how beautiful these things are. So this is completely up to us how we look at these things, what is there in our mind. So try to look at it from the view of 360 degree angle. ऊपर से कैसा लगता है, नीचे से कैसा लगता है, साइड से कैसा लगता है, बिकॉज जब जैसे जैसे आपका एंगल चेंज होगा यू विल गेट अ न्यू पर्सपेक्टिव टू इट, राइट? सो practice well, it will help you. We will meet definitely tomorrow in tomorrow's session and we'll create some nice spirals, okay? So be ready with the square sheet of paper and maybe the rectangle sheet of paper, all right? So I hope you must be struggling with the paper, right? But that's okay. Take some time and do it.
Thank you, ma'am. It was really an amazing session, and like the structures you made, it made me.
Yeah, these are very simple things to do, but yes, little tricky in understanding. But I'm sure it doesn't take more than 2 or 3 minutes. Once they are done with one pattern, they will be through with it. They can come up with lot many varieties of it.
Really amazing. I guess Kanika is having some network issues, I think.
Sorry? Can you hear me? Am I audible?
No problem, ma'am. I guess there might be some connectivity issues, but
okay. Okay, no problem. Maybe all the learners, please do it and please think what you want. If you have any queries, then please share with us. It will be our pleasure to answer your queries. All right?
yes. So in the last 15 minutes, we'll have a question and answer session. So till then, we'll collect the questions of all the students.
Yeah, I think that will be great. Because I think once they will start asking and when I'll reply to that, everybody will hear out and it will multiply the ideas.
Yes, and we'll involve students on the video as well so that they can directly interact.
Sure. Whatever is possible.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you. Bye. See you guys tomorrow.
Bye bye, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so
Bye.
much.